Welcome to North of the Broad. I'm Robin Zimmerman, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Michael DeWitt. If you're from Hampton County, you know Michael. He has been the editor of the Hampton Guardian for 20 years, and he's here to tell us a little bit about his work in Hampton County, but also he's written a couple of books because, as you all know, Hampton County has become quite famous around the world because of the Murdaugh case. And I think one of our messages today is about the story of the Murdaughs, the story of Hampton County, knowing your community and telling that story. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm a low country native, born and raised in Hampton County. Always wanted to be a writer, and when I was in my early 30s, I went to work for my hometown paper, and through the course of working for the local paper and becoming editor, I began doing a wide variety of writing. I wrote for outdoor magazines like South Carolina Wildlife, Sporting Classics. I was the author of a nationally distributed Southern humor column, right, and was going in a totally different direction before this story happened. Before
the Murdaugh story. Yes. So you have two books here on display. Let's talk about, first of all, the history. This one is the history of Hampton County. It says Wicked. And then this one is basically the Murdaugh story.
It's a history of the Murdaugh family,
yes,
including the current events and the crimes, and the modern crimes, and the murder trial.
Right. Let's talk about this book first, and then we're going to jump over the Murdaughs. The Hampton County, anything interesting that we might know, want to learn about that book?
It is, and the title is Wicked Hampton County. I want to remind people this is part of a national series. The History Press does a Wicked series.
Oh, okay.
So you've got a Wicked Beaufort, Wicked Greenville, there's a Wicked New Orleans, Wicked Charleston.
Okay.
So in 2015, I published my first book, which was a history, kind of the good history of Hampton County. But I found so many dark stories that I wanted to share later, stories about moonshine and murder and other mischief. And I said, for a rainy day, I'm gonna write this dark history. And when I was eventually convinced to write the Murdaugh family history, I had already started on this book, and I said, well, with the same research effort, I'm going to finish this and write both books at the same time.
Wow!
Because the Murdaugh family history is the history of Hampton County.
Yes.
So it was easier than you think to write two books in 18 months.
So you say that because the Murdaugh family were the leadership of, tell us, just again, we only have 2 minutes, but just.
In a small community like Hampton, you have one family that may dominate finance, for example. The Lafitte family, which you know from this crime story, they were the bankers for 100 years in Hampton County. The Murdaughs were the attorneys. They were not just personal injury attorneys. You knocked on their door when you needed help with something. They were also the solicitors, the
right,
chief prosecutors. For 85, 86 years, a man named Randolph Murdaugh was the solicitor of this 5-county area. So they were a legal dynasty, like the Lafitte's were a financial dynasty.
Okay. And so, actually, you said that you sat in the courtroom for almost every day, except for 2 days when you went on a field trip with your son and he had a fever.
That trial was 6 weeks. I missed 2 days. My child had a fever one day and a field trip the next.
What stood out? Could you just give us one little, of course, worldwide media everywhere. You sat between the Wall Street Journal and the Dateline journalist, and they were asking you a lot of questions about guns and Hampton County and the culture here.
Right. What stood out to me, people from around the world were coming to watch this trial. People were, 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still dark. People are lined up to get into the courthouse. And it was a very tragic story, and it put our community on display. And I didn't want to write these books. I didn't want to be on Dateline or Netflix. I was trying to do my job as a journalist, but I was convinced by the fact that other people around the world were telling our story and they weren't getting it right.
Right.
We're not bad people. This is not a wicked place, if you will. And I was convinced to tell our community story and tell this tragic story the way only a local person could do it.
Perfect. And to get your books, where can we find them?
Amazon, the History Press was published Wicked Hampton County, and Evening Post Books right here in Charleston published Follow the House of Murdaugh.
Well, fascinating. So nice to meet you. We've got to have you back on. Yes.
I'm happy to come back.
Thank you, Michael DeWitt, with the Hampton Guardian and author. And we'll be right back with more North of the Broad. Don't go away.